some weeks you try so hard and get so far, but in the end, it doesn't really matter. And I feel like this is one of those weeks.
Yeah, I feel it's been a quite the week for a lot of people. Lots of emotions, things, tensions in the world. The streets are stressed, is what I've been hearing lately from a lot of people. I mean, me. I'll be honest, me. Yeah, a lot of people.
I'm also stressed. Yeah. I'm not feeling amazing. And we're just kind of doing another chat and reading letters episode this week because that's kind of where we're at. And we will be back next week with another full episode. I know, June, you're putting this one together. You're doing something about the old Moms for Liberty, right?
Oh, absolutely. I cannot wait to talk about Moms for Liberty. Oh my God. But yeah, no, I think we just needed a little bit of an what do you call that? Like a punt, punted a little bit, but we still wanted to get something up for you guys.
But not a full punt. You know what? No. We are taking a breather. We are looking out for ourselves. We are protecting our mental health.
Yeah.
In today's culture, where you just go, in this damn society of ours, people aren't willing to give themselves a bit of a rest, a bit of a respite. And here's the other thing. We got so many emails last week. We got like 20 emails.
Yeah. No, this is what self-love looks like.
That's right.
Opening up the email and reading all your beautiful, wonderful messages that you sent to us.
They really have been beautiful. I think we might as well just get into it, right? Because I think everything we're going to be talking about is more or less to do with last week's episode about Quiverful. And I think the first one that I would like to read here is from Courtney, who says, "Hi, June and Josh. My name is Courtney." That's true. You can Hi, Courtney. You can read the name on air if you like. Okay, I just did. Thanks for the great reporting on the swirling right-wing cultural currents that are pushing various natalist projects in the U.S. and beyond. I myself was raised in a very fundamentalist Christian homeschool environment, shot through with a lot of the topics you've already covered on this and other shows. Gender complementarianism, dominionist politics, the former Dobson Empire, TeenPact. I'm assuming that's like a abstinence pledge.
Yeah.
Purity madness, premillennial dispensationalism, the works. My family was adjacent to the Quiverful movement, though our family had only 3 children in total. We were immersed in Quiverful culture and literature with such illuminating texts as Vision Forum magazine. Yes! Vision Forum! June, I didn't talk to you about Vision Forum.
No, I am not familiar with this. What is this?
Oh my God. We could do that as a little bit of supplemental stuff maybe, but Vision Forum is one of the big like Quiverful / homeschool advocacy groups.
Okay.
Or at least they were. I don't even know if they're around anymore. Anyway, Vision Forum magazine hawking coonskin caps and adventure books for boys about being godly warriors, with tea sets for girls and workbooks about guarding your virginity for your future husband.
Wow.
As a child, I ended up leaning heavily on internalized misogyny as a survival strategy to navigate that toxic morass, but that's neither here nor there. It later made a lot of things fall into place as an adult when I realized the only reason my parents ever stopped having children was the dire complications during my mom's 3rd birth. Her expressions of regret and personal inadequacy for receiving literally life-saving surgical intervention now had the added context of the deep shame around preventing any further pregnancies, letting the doctors close her womb to God's will, as it were. I also gained perspective on her vocal disappointment that I, as the eldest daughter, was uninterested in having any children of my own. There was a moment when I was about 11 where I mentioned that disinterest, and she pulled me for a private conversation. I vividly recall her eyes welling with tears and her questions asking if she had hurt me in some way, because that was the only thing she could think of that would cause me to reject the gift of motherhood. I deeply sympathize that her role as a mother was her primary, and then in parentheses, only, outlet for personal fulfillment. However, the effort to force that role onto an unwilling child is still an unresolvable rift between us to this day. And then there's some other stuff in here about homeschooling, which I'm not going to read because we're going to be doing an episode about homeschooling pretty soon. So I'll save that for later. But I guess this last paragraph I wanted to read. In some of my more misanthropic moments, I've looked up some of the homeschooling peers from my childhood, and it is bleak. churning out kids young and prolifically, taking even more radicalized stances than their parents in order to rebel and set themselves apart, myopic, smug disdain for the world around them. There are only 3 others I know out of hundreds who made it out of that bubble, and I'm not close with any of them, but we have been able to talk briefly and share our experiences. Those 3 others at least give me hope that while we are all strongly influenced by our formative environments, we are still self-actualized humans who have the ability to intentionally choose curiosity, embrace the unknown, and put in the work to make the world a kinder place than it was yesterday. Thank you for that beautiful email, Courtney.
Yeah. No, the idea, and I'm sure this is not an uncommon experience where, you're 11 years old. You don't know what you're going to be doing for the rest of your life. So like, if you as a kid are like, I don't have any interest in having a child, that's like, of course, you're 11, you're a child still. You have so much life to live. You have so much childhood left. And the idea that like this worldview of having to like that is your destiny. Like, it sounds like in this instance, Courtney's mother, that was like, that's her destiny, is to have a child, and projected that onto her at such a young age. And just like more broadly, that is an idea, that is like something that people project on young kids. And this goes back to the purity balls and all of this thing where they try to put kids down this path very young and like take choice away from like what their future could or could not be.
Well, and I think, too, it comes back to this very Calvinist idea, right? Calvinism, the idea that God has a plan for you. Mm-hmm. That plan was set out well before you were even born, right? You're a part of a bigger plan, you fit into that plan, and you have no actual agency as regards God's great plan. Yeah. You just have to kind of go along with it. And so if you as a parent then sort of similarly impose a Calvinist ideal on your child where it's like, these are all of the things that I have planned for you. You're going to be a mother. You're going to, raise a family just like I raised a family. You're going to have your nice little homestead with some sheep or whatever. I don't know. It is a lot of pressure for a kid, first of all, but it's also just an impossible way to live. No kid is ever going to fully live up to everything you want them to do unless you are willing to keep your mind open to the things that your kid might want to end up doing.
Yeah. Like you can't expect anyone like to know what what I thought my life would look like when I was that age is totally different than how it ended up. And I'm sure that's a common
What did you
experience.
think your life would be like?
So when I was very young, I had one of my best friends. We were both gamers. We liked gaming a lot together. And when we were like 9 or however old we were, we thought like the coolest thing you could be was work at like a Blockbuster or something like that, like a place that sells like video games and stuff like that. So that was very funny. But then after that, I got a little older and I got to I think like middle school or whatever, and I was like, oh,
and then you discovered esports.
Yeah. Yep. I started on the grind. League of Legends. No, but wanted to start programming. I wanted to be like a video game programmer, and then that was like that seems a little tough. I'm just going to be like a computer science major, and then I was like, no, I actually hate programming in general, and then switched to biology. So it was quite the journey, and I imagine that's a very common experience for most people. A lot of people do not end up anywhere near where they thought they would end up. And for some people, it works out better, like in my case. And for some other people, sadly, maybe not.
But you got to keep your eyes and ears and all of your senses open to the opportunities that might present themselves, because you just don't know.
You don't.
I feel very similarly where, did we talk about on this? I don't think we talked about on this show how I actually thought I was going to be a pastor.
I think you mentioned it. Maybe.
Or did I mention it?
It was either your show. I think it was this one. It has to.
I know I talked about it when I went on Good Christian Fun, and we talked about it for quite a while. But yeah, I was in no small part because of the social pressure around me as a kid.
Yeah.
It was like, oh yeah, all of these people around me think that I'm really good at getting up in front of the congregation and like reading Bible verses and talking about what they mean to me.
Yeah.
That means that I need to be a pastor. And it was taking all of the input that was given to me by the adults in my environment and also combining it with, again, that Calvinist ideal. I grew up in the Calvinist tradition. I went to a fucking college called Calvin College, named for the man himself, John Calvin. But that's something that has shifted, is just like, I had to also break myself out of mind jail a little bit and be like, no, but really, what do I actually want? And how do I want to live? You're never going to be satisfied trying to live the life that somebody else wants you to live. Absolutely.
Totally agree. And speaking of like you going down that path because people are like, hey, you'd be a good leader, and you go to this church. I looked up TeenPact because I was like, I was curious what this sort of thing, whether so it looks like it's a Christian nonprofit like education ministry or ministry.
It's TeenPact. It's a portmanteau of teenager and impact.
Yeah. So it's like a leadership group. It like takes these like young Christians and it like grooms them to become like leaders, like Christian leaders, whether it be in the church or government or wherever. So it's sort of like, it's just another one of those like right-wing groups that will it will how do I put this? It's setting up like future generations of like Christian youth leaders, basically, among like around all of society. Is like what I got just from a brief scan of this Wikipedia page.
And it's an immersion experience, right? It's sort of like Birthright, where you are experiencing. It's Republican Birthright. Where it's like, come and you as a teen can have an impact. You can have a TeenPact by, what a horrible name, by going to, the state capitol.
The guy who founded that group is a member of the Georgia Public Service Commission under Brian Kemp.
Wow.
So he's like, this guy is another one of those people that has started one of these groups. This is foreshadowing to Moms for Liberty, another one of these right-wing groups.
Oh my
Christian
God,
right-wing groups.
They're all the same and they're all connected.
All fucking connected.
God.
That's basically putting together the Moms for Liberty episode. It's like, I'm screaming,
Incredible.
It's all fucking connected.
Yes.
It's all, I feel like a fucking freak with like pins and string on a corkboard. But it always is.
Again, Courtney, thank you for that email. It's nice to hear about people who, like you yourself, were not in a Quiverful family, but it does sound like it could have ended up becoming one were it not for your mom having to get that surgery.
Yeah.
And either way, there were certainly aspects of the ideology there. It's always heartening to hear that there are people who can make it out of the ideology and still sort of be, I don't know, reasonably well adjusted. Thank you for writing in.
This next email is from Vivian. Dear June and Josh, sidebar, I like that they always put my name first. I appreciate that. It just rolls off the tongue a little bit better, June and Josh. But the thing is we both have the same amount of letters. It's quick, simple. It works regardless. But she says, thank you for the fascinating episode. This is referring to the Tradwife episode. American political trends always seem to find their way to Europe in a matter of months or years via the most phone-addicted fascists. So I consider your podcast something of a heads up. As a chronically unemployed trans woman who enjoys cooking and baking for her husband, I certainly found the superficial similarity with the Tradwives entertaining, but the difference is very telling. I take care of the household and my butch works full-time to support us.
My butch.
I love, I'm trans, I'm queer. I love queer people. It's so beautiful.
I love my beautiful butch and yours.
I love But this division of labor was something discussed and always open to being discussed again. My impression from the episode and what I've seen of Tradwife content is that Tradwives and conservatives more generally desperately want to tamp down by making gendered labor seem natural and rewarding, at least until they can crush women's rights to the point of trapping them in marriages. That's a really good point. Really good point there. I also think this is why even the most so-called heteronormative and palatable queer relationship is unacceptably egalitarian and subversive to them, and alongside feminism is such a target of the right. They want to dictate rather than discuss household labor. And the most frustrating thing is that all the rewards and benefits of tradwifery are available without giving up your rights. I can stay at home and be romantically devoted to my husband, and he still sees me as a person and equal. All I had to do was go T for T. T for T, baby. Support. Big ups to T for T.
Rules.
And then it just says, thank you again for the hours of entertainment. Thank you so much for giving the trans tradwife perspective.
Yes. Thank you for the minutes of entertainment with that letter, Vivian. That's so good.
But no, I think the point specifically where it's like they want to not only take rights away, but like you're basically that women are born like with the skills of cleaning, and men are not like born with the skills of cleaning. Like it's innate in the DNA and the genetics, which is like, I haven't even thought about it on that deep of a level, but that is absolutely what is happening here. Yeah,
the biological determinism of it all, and that I thought they want to dictate rather than discuss household labor is so interesting to me.
Yes.
And it's not just in trans relationships too, right? There are plenty of cis-het relationships where traditional gender roles, I guess, are preserved, where like the man is the breadwinner and the woman is the homemaker.
Right.
But that is not necessarily going to be an inherently patriarchal thing where the woman is sort of subjected to being the weaker vessel and under the male headship or whatever.
Yeah.
You can still choose to order your life in this way. But the important thing here, and I feel like we say this with the natalist stuff a lot, right, is it's all about choice. Like, I don't care if you want to have 10, 12 kids. I don't think it's a great idea. We talked about that in the Quiverful episode. But like, if you want to do it, I'm not going to stop you. What I'm going to take objection to is if you force everybody to do that.
And that's like sort of the whole thing right now. I don't know if you've seen... ever since Trump got elected, there's been like this new-ish narrative of right-wingers posting pictures of like JD Vance's family with like 2 or 3 kids. And they're like, the caption is usually something like, the Donald Trump administration is normalizing being a father, normalizing being parents. And like on the front of it, like right away you see that and you're like, what the fuck are you talking about? Being a parent's like the most normal thing like a person could probably do. That's like just, I mean, that is how people are here.
As opposed to previous presidents of the United States who were not fathers? Like they were all fathers. What are you talking about?
They all had families. And it's like, it's that thing where like they think that we are like people on the left or like people that are like feminists in particular are telling people, no, you cannot have families. No, you cannot have children. They actually, I do think a portion of them do perceive it as like an attack on families. And that's why they respond in the way that they do, where they want to take away rights, because they think that people choosing for themselves to live how they want is an attack on them. And maybe even an attack on like the West or like whiteness in some cases. But I think that's why they like, you'll see a lot of these, families are normal again. You can be a father again, because they perceive it as an attack.
Yeah. All right, this one's a bit more out of left field, but I think it's pretty funny. This one's from Kenzie, who says, hello, June and Josh. Damn it.
Still,
Josh and June.
It's that's the theme. Yeah, no, switch it up every once in a while. I love June and Josh.
There are some other ones in here that do say Josh and June. And if you say June and Josh, I'm your friend. If you say Josh, wait, fuck. No, sorry. If you say Josh and June, I'm your friend. If you say June and Josh, I'm your enemy. No.
Look, I love June and Josh, but switching it up is always recommended. We love
you can do whatever you want at the end of the day, because we advocate choice on this
all
podcast.
About choice. This is the only official podcast of choice.
That's right. First and only pro-choice podcast.
Yeah.
So, hello, June and Josh. On your recent episode about the Quiverful movement, you rightly made fun of the intro music of the CBMW podcast. I just found it extra funny that the song used in that intro is Life in the Fast Lane by Eagles, a band not really known for having traditional Christian values. The lyrics to that song are all about doing too many drugs and having too much sex and driving your car too fast, which is actually a heavy-handed metaphor for living a fast life generally.
Yeah.
And not that the song explicitly endorses those behaviors, but I always find it interesting that these more traditional people are more accepting of music with edgier lyrics when they listen to classic rock. And I can't help but wonder what their opinion would be of a song with similar lyrical content, but was, for example, hip-hop or hardcore punk, etc., etc. But perhaps they just thought the sick guitar riff sounded super manly for their Manly Man's podcast. Have a great week, Kenzie. Hey, Kenzie, you have a great week as well.
I'm so glad that someone knew that song. I honestly might have. I just am not familiar with the Eagles in particular, so I could have just assumed it was just like they made this quick intro for their podcast. But no, I do love this this trend of right wingers sort of adopting music that's not even intentionally like super political. Like Green Day. I mean, like you could. Actually, Green Day is like political. Rage Against the Machine is political,
very political.
But like they will see these songs and they're like, yeah, don't trust the system and stuff like that. But it's
they've been doing this forever.
Yeah.
Fucking playing "Born in the USA" by Bruce Springsteen, which is about how much it fucking sucks to be an American.
Yeah. It's this constant trend of them just not understanding the things they listen to, and they think that when like in particular. The singer of Rage Against the Machine says something about Trump or like Gaza or something, they're like, oh, they really fell off recently. And it's like, no, they've been like this for like 30 fucking years. It's such a funny thing. What the fuck do
you think that some of those who work forces are the same who burn crosses means?
What do you mean? Yeah, like, come on. It's like so blatant too. Like it's crazier when it's blatantly obvious what the message is. And they still just don't even know. It's awesome.
I think in this particular case, it is mostly just that they thought that the riff was really cool, man. But I also agree that there is something interesting about the intersection of violence and masculinity in, I don't know, conservative Christian culture or whatever, where on the one hand, they will always decry, oh, this violence is so bad. Oh. But then on the other hand, will go out of their way to perform machismo because they themselves feel so fucking cucked because they don't have any real meaning in their lives, you know?
Right.
And so when you lack meaning in your own life, all you can do is sort of project outward and find things that broadly signal what it is that you hope that you were, I guess?
Yeah.
You wish that you were?
I feel like you see that play out most blatantly and most recently with politicians, Christian politicians, like especially right-wing ones. Some Democrats that, espouse Christian ideals. That's like part of their whole ideology. But they're like, yeah, we got to kill the kids in Gaza. Like they like actively cheer and revel in like the killing of kids in Gaza. It's like, how does this compute? This should not compute.
Not just that, but also that, like, when somebody's like, hey, maybe we should stop killing kids, they'll be like, oh, what are you, some kind of pussy? It's like, no. No, I just don't think you should kill kids.
Yeah. Like I think people dying is bad. I think people being
especially
murdered
children.
Is bad. Yeah.
Not great.
Yeah, no, it's always interesting when they find use cases with their religion with that.
But again, I think it's just they need something to anchor themselves with. They need a mantra, they need an aesthetic, they need an idea, and they find it in this music.
Absolutely. And who am I to poo-poo on someone for liking music?
That's right. You know what? They can choose to listen to whatever kind of music they want.
We're a pro-choice podcast.
That's right, June.
Thank you again for that email. This next email is from Joe, and look what we have here. Another June and Josh. We got a full tally up today. All on the board.
We'll have to start scoring it.
Yeah, I'm gonna put a little chalkboard up by my computer. Who
won the mailbag this week?
I love making everything a very tight competition.
Absolutely.
Where we're like mad at each other. That's gonna be that's really good. Yeah.
That's just that's the foundation for a beautiful, lasting anything is fierce, angry competition.
Absolutely. So Joe says, while I am not the product of a Quiverful family, lapsed Catholic, boring, right? I did work with someone who was for a few years. He was a younger man, evangelical family from Dobson Country in the Springs, and was one of it's always the Springs. It's always Colorado Springs. and he was one of 10 children. He had 3 kids himself before 25.
Wow.
While a nice enough guy, he was almost always stressed about money and time, and that would frequently spill over to him losing his temper at work. What frightened me the most, though, was how uneducated they and their kids were about basic facts of the world. As an example of this, he didn't understand how film photography worked and used that as a basis for denying the moon landing.
Huh.
Anyway, that's my Quiverful experience. If you cover the LDS Church, I might have more. Have a great day and keep cranking out the delightful content. P.S. June, my cat loves your voice. He comes to the phone when the pod is on speaker. Right now, you're helping him adjust to our new house. Thanks for that, smiley face. That's so sweet.
That's
I love your cat.
adorable.
I love your cat. I'm so glad that you have a new little guy. Aw, adorable. You should, Joe. You should email us and tell us the name of your cat.
That's right.
I love cats. Yeah.
And then June can just do a little like lullaby for the cat or whatever.
What should I sing? Should I sing the song of the Eagles?
You should sing
What
that
are the
Eagles song
lyrics?
to the cat.
Looking up the lyrics right now.
Perfect. Yeah, this is. Thank you for your email, Joe. I am very interested in the point about he was so stressed out about time and money, and that's something that in those documentaries, none of the people, the families really talked about that thing because they're trying to put a positive spin on the lifestyle. But it's absolutely true that if you are not prioritizing your material needs, invariably you will end up in a situation where you are wanting. And that's not to say that everybody needs to live a luxurious and lavish lifestyle with all the, fucking accoutrement or whatever. But if you don't have what it is that you need simply to get by, that adds so much pressure to anyone, especially a marriage with children.
Yeah, I mean, it's stressful not having enough to get by when it's just you taking care of yourself. Yes. I can't imagine how it would feel taking care of yourself, and your wife, assuming I can't imagine she worked, maybe, I guess, and 3 kids. That's got to be hard. Yeah. And I mean, that's what family planning is for. That is what the use of contraception is for, is to allow people to not be thrust into situations where they have a bunch of kids too young before they're more stable economically or personally. Because 25 is really young too. Me at 25, I could not have imagined having 3 kids at that age. I still can't, and I'm almost 30. But that is what family planning is for, and that's why I think this is part of the Natalist Project in particular, to get rid of abortion legality and strip away birth control rights, because the Christian right, natalists, don't necessarily care that people will be struggling. They just want people to have more kids.
Well, and the education piece, too, that is something that, again, when we do our homeschool episode in a couple weeks, we're going to be talking a lot about the way that part of the project of homeschooling is that it allows you to present a specific view of the world to your family, and you are able to fall outside of the purview of any sort of standardized state curriculum in most cases. And the state wants that. The conservative state wants that because it creates a more ignorant and therefore more malleable populace that lacks the ability to articulate ideas that critique the prevailing dominant power structure. I also think that is what the point of LLMs is, but that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah, I think our next 2 episodes, because I think you're doing the homeschooling one after we're doing Moms for Liberty. Yeah. Basically, the next 2 episodes are going to be very hyper education focused. We did get some emails about homeschooling, and I think we're going to cover those after we get through the next 2 episodes, if I remember what our plan was correctly. So if you emailed us already about homeschooling, we'll get to those. Don't think we left you behind. If you have more stuff about homeschooling, email us at illconceivedpod@gmail.com. So this next email is from Abby. She says, I really love your podcast.
Well, hold on.
Yeah,
she starts with hi. And that's interesting because she didn't say hi, Josh and June, or hi, June and Josh. She just said hi.
Very apolitical, very centrist.
That's right. We're putting one in the centrist column.
I didn't think we would have 3 categories here. Yeah, wow.
If it's June and Josh, we put it in the left-wing column. If it's Josh and June, we put it in the right-wing column because of my famous hyper-reactionary political views. Abby's right in the middle.
I always knew you were a reactionary.
Oh, yeah.
So she says, "Hi. I really love your podcast. It feels odd to say that given all the dark topics. I've got an academic background in political and social psychology, and I found myself wondering, especially as I was listening to the episode about Tradwives, whether you've heard of the concept of benevolent sexism. Benevolent sexism, or BS, yes, that's the official acronym used in scientific literature. I love it. That's great. Is a set of sexist beliefs that, while they don't seem overtly hateful to women, are still limiting to them. For example, the idea that women are inherently nurturing and meant for motherhood is BS. BS is also more appealing to women than hostile sexism is, and harder for women to recognize and fight against. I think it might help explain the appeal that some of the movements you discuss can have to women. Benevolent sexism, or BS, also relates to opposition to abortion in situations like rape and the life of the mother being in danger, perhaps even more than hostile sexism does. Thanks for making a great informative show, Abby."
And she also put down in a postscript a couple of videos that she made about it, so we'll link those in the notes as well if people are interested in more about this topic.
Yeah, I'll dig a little bit into this, and I'll see if it's like a topic we could do a full episode about.
Yeah.
Like as a topic. But no, I think like this is what we were talking about earlier about how these different traits are inherent to women themselves, like we were talking about earlier, like they're just better at cleaning. They have like the cleaning gene. That's I guess that might be what that is. Yeah.
I mean, that is, I think, a form of benevolent sexism, right? If it's like, well, the woman just has an eye for the domestic.
Yeah.
She just understands what a nice orderly space looks like.
Yes.
It comes to her in the form of that womanly intuition. That's why she should be cleaning the house.
Oh my God. Yeah. It's all clicking. It's all clicking into place. It's like it's the people that say it, in some cases, it probably can be used very intentionally harmfully. But a lot of people that probably say some of these things don't really realize the implications of these statements, is what I have to guess. People don't think deeper on some of these things, maybe.
Well, and thinking back to Tradwives, too, right? And this idea of the Titus II woman that we sort of touched on, where she has all of these specific qualities that are so good for her, that make her like the strong biblical woman. Mm-hmm. It limits one's imagination in terms of what you can be. And I guess this is just the thing that I keep coming back to, right? This ties into what we were saying about like going along with these plans that were made for you by adults in your life. Isn't life just more fun when you get to be whoever and whatever you want to be? I personally think so.
Yeah. I mean, how many times, and this isn't exactly like this, but I feel like everyone has a story of a kid they knew in middle school, elementary school, maybe even high school, where they were like the top of the class. They were like the star student. It was only high like the horizons were like grand for them, lined up. And they get to college, they like move away from their town, they move away from their parents, who tend to be like pretty strict a lot of in some of these cases I've noticed. And they just completely crash out. They fail college, they fail out of college. They get like they just go through a lot of different stuff, and they just sort of burn out completely. And I think that's not exactly natalist what this is, but I think it's an example of just how someone who might feel locked into a specific track, they have chosen this track in their life at a young age, whether it be through expectations from the parent being set on them or expectations they set themselves up for. It just seems unhealthy to live that way. I mean, there's so many examples of that.
And you mentioned specifically like going to school.
Yeah.
That is, I think, an interesting example of something that didn't used to be perceived as something that girls are better at.
Right.
But I think that has happened now. A shift has occurred where education, and especially higher education, are seen as more feminized now.
Yeah.
And I think also then there's probably a degree of benevolent sexism around, oh, well, yeah, she's going to do so great in schools. She's a girl, after all.
Yeah. And you can see that even projected onto certain types of jobs that tend to be a little bit more women dominated, like HR. There's been like for about a year now, maybe a little bit longer. And HRs are not like ever perfect, but I feel like HRs are attacked in ways that you don't really often see for different departments in types of businesses.
Yeah. I know you saw that there was that one video of all of those girls who I think worked in an HR department where it's like Gen Z boss in a mini, that fucking thing. And you had people in the comments being like, I'm going to fucking kill every single one of these girls. I am going to do a mass shooting.
Yeah, like people, like right-wing men in particular, saw that video of, and let's be clear, it was advertising. It was for like a skincare company. It was an advertising video for their company. So like they were doing their job. And arguably they did the best job possible because it might have been one of the most viewed TikToks of 2024.
They did a little too well.
They did. And it completely obliterated like right-wing men's minds. It like genuinely made them into Hitler. They saw that video and they turned into Hitler when they saw that. Like it's wild. Like this the feminization of certain types of jobs, of school. Yeah. I mean, and that goes all the way back to like how masculinity is used as a weapon, as a cudgel for this movement. How like masculinity, and especially performative masculinity, is used.
And I think it's a very interesting preview of coming attractions for when we do our Moms for Liberty episode, because Moms for Liberty, as you would expect from the name, is mostly led by women.
Right.
But isn't just women, which is interesting. There are a lot of men involved in this.
Oh, yeah.
And secondly, much of how they operate, I think, is grounded in these ideas of what a woman's role is.
Absolutely. And you can see that in some of the things I advocate for. Absolutely.
So let's go ahead and take a look at another email here. This one's from Ray. Ray says, hello.
Oh, the subject for this one, I cannot wait. I haven't read this one yet.
Oh, yeah. The subject line on this email is, my dad destroyed my purity ring. And yes, we're putting one in the centrist column here for Ray. Former daughter, now man here. Nice, let's go. The recent episode on daddy-daughter dates awoke in me a deep retrospective revulsion that I haven't felt in 20-some-odd years. Along with the revulsion, I recalled my father's most foreshadowing minor fuck-up as a parent. If it hadn't been presented to me in a daddy-daughter dance, it wouldn't be immediately obvious that what I wore through all of middle and high school was a purity ring. It was a simple pewter construction that said one day at a time around the band. One could be forgiven for assuming it was a nod toward hope from a sad kid, but it was, in fact, a purity ring. I don't have it anymore because my dad melted it in the oven. He didn't mean to. He'd been trying to resize it for me since after a decade of wear, it had grown misshapen and difficult to put on. Shockingly, I didn't immediately throw myself upon a man in carnal lust. In fact, being a person on the asexual spectrum, I always had a sense of superiority when my church leaders talked about the temptations of the flesh, the struggle to keep one's sexual desires in check. What, like it's hard? I grew up in West Michigan. All right, let's go. And went to a handful of daddy-daughter events as a kid. Rather than teach me good Christian values, they gave me the first conscious thoughts I had of, I am not a girl. The boys got to go camping with their dads, and I had to wear a dress and dance with my dad to Cinderella by Stephen Curtis Chapman. Gross. There were certainly sexual overtones to the father-daughter relationship growing up. I remember my dad saying I could no longer run around in the house in just my underpants because I would be forcing him to sin.
What the fuck?
That's crazy.
Like 10 red flags right there.
Oh my God.
Holy shit.
There was an explicitly stated expectation that my future husband would look and act and smell, weirdly, like my father. Sex was presented as a gift you can only give once for the rest of your life. I feel like this taps into some of the weirder stuff about those daddy-daughter dates that we talked about, right?
Yeah, where there is like a very strange tone to some of them.
And in some cases, it's kind of incesty, just a little bit incestuous. Anyway, moving on here, they finish, your show serves as a really important reminder to me that the way I was raised was not only weird, but also bad, in that I will continue to discover ways in which my parents failed me in favor of appeasing God. As a trans person who's left the church, it's easy for me to look back on what I was taught and rationalize my discomfort, often chalking it up to feeling bitter about how my transition was and is treated. But no, even if I'd grown up to be a woman, as was anticipated, there would still be these nasty little things I was raised to believe about myself, my worth, and my anonymous future husband. Thank you for the constant validation of my decision not only to leave the church, but also to cauterize the inside of my uterus and chop up my tits. Cheers!
Thank you, Ray. Like I knew when we did that episode about the purity balls and all of like the purity culture. Like I've sort of always had that just gut feeling that, especially the way that fathers sometimes talk about even their adult daughters. I have a friend who just a trans friend that just went to her sister's wedding last week, and there was like a moment at this wedding I was told about where the father put his hands on my friend's sister's shoulders and was like, I am like, she is not mine anymore. I'm like basically what the sentiment was. I don't know the exact quote was just like, I'm passing her off now. She is yours now, to the husband. And it's like that sentiment is just like a very bizarre perception of the world. And it says a lot about how certain parents, not all, of course, not all parents are like this. Some, especially of the right-wing Christian variety, tend to look at their children as property, not like a human being.
Yep.
Yeah,
that's what it always comes back to. And
absolutely.
And there's some of that benevolent sexism in there again too, about how
absolutely.
Women are so pretty and delicate and weak, and so like we just have to protect them.
Yeah, I have to my delicate 29-year-old daughter. It's like I have to pass her off.
I must protect her. And now that I'm done protecting her, I can pass her off to this other man who will protect her in my stead.
Yeah, yep. It's top to bottom. It's the whole benevolent sexism. That's my new favorite word.
One of the things that I love doing the most about this show is getting these emails. It's something that I was not expecting to be as integral to the show as it is, but I'm so glad that it has become this way.
Me too. I mean, I've been doing podcasts for a little bit, like with my other show that I do. We have emails, but I didn't like the show isn't necessarily designed with so much interactivity with each episode's topic from like the listeners. So doing this show, I agree, has just been like so interesting to just see like the level of like genuine interest and like not even just interest, but like firsthand experiences with a lot of the topics that we go over. It's like a really genuinely, I love opening the email and seeing everyone's emails. Like it's
just
the
hearing
level
everybody's
of
stories, right?
Yeah.
Like that's always something that I've really enjoyed just in general. It's like I'm the weird guy who will like go to a bar and just start talking to people, and I'll be like,
same.
hey, what's your story? And then sometimes people will just tell you about what their lives are, and I feel fortunate that people, I don't know, trust us enough to be willing to share their stories and treat them with the respect that I think that they deserve.
Yeah. No, and I doubly like thank you for sharing so much to us and everyone who listens. For the ones that we read off, thank you. Yeah.
And I will say this too. This is a request. Please leave us some reviews on Apple Podcasts. if you would like to do something else that is a gift, if you want to give us a gift. You've already given us so many gifts through these emails, but if you'd like to give us the gift of a review on Apple Podcasts,
like
we would
in
love
particular, and we mean like in particular Apple Podcasts.
That platform specifically.
Yeah.
For some reason, people keep going on Apple Podcasts and leaving us weird reviews, and it's very clear that they are people who have not listened to the show.
The craziest ones to me are the ones that are like, the music's a little over the top. And it's like the music is active for the first movie. There's only 1 minute of music maybe tops the entire episode. What the fuck are they talking about? It's people that hear that and just are like, I think half the reviews that are like crazy that make no sense are either AI generated or just people going out of their way to review bomb. So basically this is a roundabout way of saying, if you haven't yet, please review us on whatever platform you use.
Especially Apple Podcasts.
But especially Apple Podcast. Thank you.
Because I think the other ones you can leave ratings, but not really reviews. It's like writing out a review that is really, really helpful. Anyway,
yeah.
That's our plea to you. We'll see you next week. I'm Josh.
I'm June. You can put a one on the right. You set yourself up for a mark on the right because it was a Josh and June moment right there.
Let's go!
See ya.